You can't help but notice that spring is here when a huge flock of great blue herons is returning to the bay. If you look around, they'll be gracefully exploring the estuary and hunting out in the bay whenever the waters are low. You can see them choosing the perfect stick in the cedars around the rookery, and the rookery is just up from Hecate Park. I'm very fortunate because we're living close to the rookery, which means herons are soaring right over the roofs of our houses. You have the opportunity to watch them choosing nesting materials right outside the living room window. They rise up like a cloud from the rookery first thing in the morning so that they can head down to hunt. At Hecate Park, you can pick a park bench and they will soar right over your head down to the bay. Which gives you lots of opportunities to observe herons. And if you're anything like me, then you're going to want to translate that into art in different mediums. But how do you do that with live herons that are on the move and quite far away living their lives? And I like to share my art and my observations with my mail club by turning things into postcards and field notes and bookmarks and letters. And so I'll talk about that more in the video too. I found bird watching really crept up on me fast once I was in my 40s, and then of course being an artist, I just have to try to record my observations. Whether it's accurate or not, that's not really the point. It's all in the journey and the experience of being out there, observing the herons, and then trying to capture sketches as best I can. A flying heron is not going to stop and pause so that you can render it, but what you can do, especially since there are so many herons flying overhead at Hecate Park, is focus on basic shapes. So I try to pause these herons in my mind and I try to see like where are the triangles, where is an oval or a square, or hey, is the way they carry their neck an S shape? And then I just sketch that loosely. There was this little seagull flying up and dropping his rock on a clam because he was trying to break it. And so I was trying to paint him in watercolor with my brush pen. And you may think you know what a seagull looks like in flight, but then when you actually have to paint it, it becomes this whole other challenge. And so begins this art of looking and seeing and noticing and really slowing down and observing what's around you. When I'm looking out to all of these herons that are hunting in the bay, it actually can get a little overwhelming. They're all in different poses, and it's best to just focus on one, but then that same one will turn and change its position. So I find it can be good to pick a few different positions, and then maybe you only get a couple lines down for that one position, and then that particular heron's gonna turn, but another heron will turn into that same position. Or perhaps that original heron returns to the original position. So I might kind of start a drawing of a heron, and then I might skip to the next drawing and find a new position, but then go back to that original position when I find another heron in it. When choosing a medium to use, I think the best medium is the medium you're going to have some fun with. I often will choose watercolor because it's easy to take my watercolor brush pen along with this little tin of watercolors I have, and I've recently added some gouache to that tin as well. I find that's pretty easy I can work quickly with that, but I am, as you've probably seen in some of my other videos, been trying to practice a little bit more with soft pastel when I'm outside as well. I forgot to bring a paper clip when I went down to the bay, so I am literally holding this paper open with my kneadable eraser. I turned it into a paper clip. Originally, I was a bit frustrated that it was challenging to create beautiful art when I was outdoors. I mean, it's just a skill, and it's a skill that I'm working on. But now I just really love being in the bay and drawing at the same time. I mean, does it get any better than that? It's like we're off screens and just experiencing the breeze and the sun and the birds and also other people going by. It's just really interesting, and I wish that I could do it every day. And you don't have to create a masterpiece to have an amazing time. It's really more about noticing the world around you, experiencing it, and having fun. And if you're creating some art, and if that art happens to look beautiful, fabulous. But on that note, we're gonna move to the studio next. I do like to grab some still shots which I can use as reference. So while I'm out there in the world, I take some photos and then I take them back to the studio and I start to make some art. I tend to gravitate towards my soft pastels in the studio first, partly because I just love this tactile medium, and partly because I make my postcards for the mail club earlier in the month just so that I can order them on time to send them out mid-month. It's fun to think about the different shapes that these feathers form while a heron is in flight. It's almost like little fingers, and then the way that the different colors overlap is also really interesting. I enjoy incorporating the pan pastels into many of my works because I really like the effect that you can get, and you can layer pretty easily with them. Water can be quite intimidating to paint, but the key is really to think of it more as individual shapes and hues. That pastel painting would turn into the postcard for the mail club, but let's look at how some of the other elements came together as well. Early in the spring, before the foliage grows in, it's easy to see the herons interacting with each other in the rookery. And so I kind of froze a moment in time where this one heron was landing and spreading its wings. And then I decided to draw that up in ink, so like fineliner ink, and then also used alcohol markers for shading in. Whenever possible, I try to make art from something that I've actually observed, but sometimes I am going to use like a stock reference photo. This ink sketch became part of my field notes because I was recording something that I was actually seeing there at the rookery. In this case, I watched a heron stand for a long time on top of this piling. It was hunting and trying to look for fish from a upwards vantage point, I guess, and it really wasn't moving very much, just occasionally turning one way or another. Living so close to the herons, it was really difficult for me to edit down everything that I could share with people about herons and all of the art that I could make. I feel like I could make an entire zine just about herons. And if I may have blue herons in my environment, and maybe you don't have herons, but I'm sure that you have something in your environment that is unique and special, something that you could just observe and notice and learn more about, or something that you could even create your own art with. Another example is this feather was actually underneath the heron rookery. I think it's a chest feather, but I'm not sure. But I wanted to incorporate it into the mail club, so I decided that I could scan it. And that funky little feather would actually become the vellum wrap for the mail in my mail club. It turned out that I had scanned that feather in the nick of time as well, because I accidentally left it on the table and my mom's cat got at it and mangled the feather completely. Once all the heron materials are made, then it's time to print them all out. get them all cut up, and then start to assemble the envelopes. Preparing the envelopes has become a little bit of a ritual and a meditation for me as I think about the people who are going to receive these letters and my artwork around the world. I am sharing my own experiences of the flora and fauna in my region with people who are sometimes local and sometimes they're from across the world. So they may be familiar with herons, or that may be a completely unfamiliar animal to them. It's just fun to think that I could be sharing with somebody else. If you're interested in joining the mail club, then I'll put a link below for you to do that. The heron packets themselves have flown away, and actually this month, June, we're on to the Nootka Rose because I feature different flora and fauna every month. But I do have some heron packets still available, so if you send me an email, then there's a chance I could send one to you and it could be in your mailbox.